Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today as we dive into what is, honestly, humanity's oldest and most profound question. For as long as we've looked up at the stars, we've wondered about our place in this massive cosmos. So today, we're going to impartially explore some incredibly compelling historical data, along with modern evidence, surrounding 10 alleged alien encounters that to this day still can't be fully explained. We're going to unpack these mysteries, and we'll keep things clear, structured, and strictly fact-based.
What if humanity isn't alone? It's a really heavy question, isn't it? I mean, for thousands of years, people from literally every corner of the globe have reported strange lights in the sky, mysterious visitors, and encounters that just seem to defy everything we understand about science. Today, we're going to explore 10 of the most fascinating alleged alien encounters ever reported. Some are backed up by eyewitness testimony, some by official government investigations, and others just remain these enduring puzzles. Now, we aren't here to declare undeniable proof today. Instead, we're going to look closely at the source material and see exactly why these specific cases continue to inspire such fierce debate.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with ancient mysteries, move into the early UFO era, cover mass sightings, dig into military encounters, and finally ask, are we truly alone? Let's get right into it.
Chapter 1, Ancient and Subterranean Mysteries. What's really interesting here is how looking backward in time actually sets the stage for everything else.
High above the deserts of Peru lie the Nazca Lines. These are enormous geometric shapes and animal figures that stretch hundreds of feet across the landscape, and this brilliantly illustrates our very first debate. On one side, the ancient astronaut theory suggests these massive lines were used as landing markers, or maybe messages for extraterrestrial visitors. Meanwhile, the mainstream archaeological consensus firmly believes these lines were created by the Nazca people for ceremonial and cultural purposes. But honestly, regardless of which side you lean toward, the sheer scale and mathematical precision of these ancient designs continue to totally amaze researchers today. But Peru isn't the only ancient mystery out there. First, consider Nan Madol in Micronesia. It's this ancient ruined city built with 250 million tons of basalt logs that mysteriously exhibit strong magnetic anomalies whenever you run a compass over them. Then there's the massive Son Doong Cave in Vietnam. It's a subterranean world so large it actually has its own weather system, and it's accompanied by local legends of reptilian humanoid beings dwelling inside. But perhaps the most baffling are the discoveries made back in 1991 in Russia's Ural Mountains. Geologists found these tiny, microscopic metal coils, some made of incredibly heat-resistant tungsten and molybdenum. The catch here? They were found at a depth that dates them to be roughly 50,000 years old. Are these the remnants of ancient crashed probes? The source material leaves it as a fascinating, totally unresolved puzzle.
Chapter 2, the early UFO era. Let's see how these ancient anomalies build into the mid-century atomic age, which really sparked the modern UFO movement.
You really can't talk about this topic without exploring the 1947 Roswell Incident. Initial eyewitness claims from the military themselves stated they had recovered a flying disc, along with some very strange metallic debris. But then, just hours later, the official explanation shifted to a downed weather balloon. And then, decades later, it was updated again to a classified surveillance project. While that official explanation settled the matter for some folks, for others, the mystery absolutely persists. In fact, modern geologists mapping the debris trajectory, which is known as the skip site, are still uncovering tiny, twisted fragments of highly pure molybdenum, an element that is heavily used in aerospace engineering.
So, the crucial point in this next case from 1961 is how it fundamentally changed UFO history forever. Betty and Barney Hill were just driving home through New Hampshire when they noticed an unusual light following their car. Upon arriving home, they realized they had experienced a significant period of missing time. Later on, under hypnosis, they detailed an alleged encounter aboard a mysterious craft. Whether you view this as a deeply psychological event, a massive misunderstanding, or something else entirely, it is the case that introduced the concept of missing time to the world and cemented the modern alien abduction narrative. Chapter 3, Mass and Civilian Sightings. Okay, let's transition from those isolated incidents to mass sightings where ordinary civilians witnessed extraordinary events together. What is truly fascinating about the 1994 Zimbabwe school encounter is the sheer contrast in the explanations. Dozens of young students reported seeing a strange craft land right near their playground, and they independently gave remarkably consistent descriptions of small beings dressed in black. Psychologists who later interviewed the children suggested it was a classic case of psychological mass hysteria, where the kids inadvertently influenced each other's memories. Believers, however, argue that the consistency of those details across dozens of independent accounts is exactly what makes this case so extraordinary.
Let's map out the timeline of one of the most famous mass sightings in American history, the Phoenix Lights. On the evening of March 13, 1997, thousands of people across Arizona reported a massive, silent, V-shaped craft moving slowly across the sky. Some witnesses even noted it was so huge it actively blocked out the stars behind it as it passed. Later that night, the military dropped illumination flares during a training exercise, which they cited as the official explanation for the lights. However, a massive debate still endures because thousands of witnesses insist that what they saw earlier in the evening was a solid structural craft, completely distinct from those military flares.
Chapter 4. Modern Military Encounters, and this brilliantly illustrates why we have to examine highly documented airspace incidents involving trained personnel.
Consider the 1980 Rendlesham Forest mystery in England. U.S. military personnel approached a glowing triangular object resting in the woods. Official investigations later noted strange radiation readings at that exact landing site. But the most staggering claim actually comes from an officer who touched the craft's surface. He reported receiving a sudden, overwhelming flash of zeros and ones right in his mind. The next day, he wrote down this binary code. Years later, when run through a computer translator, it supposedly yielded a message claiming to be from human time travelers from the year 8100. Extraterrestrial, time travelers? The debate on this one is incredibly intense. Fast forward to 2004, and we have the famous Nimitz encounter. U.S. Navy pilots tracked an object, now known from the released infrared video as the Tic Tac. This thing accelerated rapidly, changed direction instantly, and operated without visible wings or exhaust plumes, seemingly defying the known laws of physics. The real crux of the matter here is the official conclusion, which stated, the object's identity could not be determined from the available evidence. Even the highest levels of official military investigators were completely stumped by what their own sensors recorded.
Because of events like the Nimitz encounter, global governments are actually shifting their stance. Chile has been way ahead of the curve, establishing an official UAP study committee all the way back in 1997. In 2014, the Chilean military even captured 9 minutes of incredibly clear infrared footage of an unidentified craft emitting a strange plume, which they studied for 2 years and still couldn't identify. Similarly, for decades, the Japanese government maintained a strict policy of denial regarding UFOs, but in September 2020, they made a monumental policy shift, officially tasking the Japanese self-defense forces to actively record and report any encounters with unexplained crafts.
Now, as we discuss these official government investigations, we really have to define UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. It is absolutely vital to remember that an object lacking identification based on available data does not inherently mean it is alien. It simply means investigators lack the evidence to identify it with confidence. Maintaining that objective distinction is exactly how we stay grounded while exploring these incredible mysteries.
Chapter 5. Are we truly alone? Let's step back and look at the statistical and philosophical reality of our universe to close this out. Over 100 billion. To put that into perspective, the observable universe contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, and each of those holds billions of stars, many with their own planets. Statistically speaking, the sheer probability that intelligent life exists somewhere out there is incredibly high. But as we know, a statistical possibility is not the same thing as undeniable proof. And that is exactly why scientists are actively hunting for clues. Researchers are currently exploring extreme environments right here on Earth, like deep, ancient ice caves in Whistler, Canada. They're looking for microbial life trapped in ice that's tens of thousands of years old. This research feeds directly into panspermia theories, which is the idea that the building blocks of life may have actually rained down on Earth from passing comets. So we are looking everywhere, from the deepest caves to the farthest stars. But so far, undeniable extraterrestrial contact remains unconfirmed.
The crucial takeaway from this explainer is this: every generation looks up to the stars with an endless curiosity. We want to understand the unknown. Some of the 10 cases we explored today might eventually find perfectly ordinary terrestrial explanations. But until undeniable evidence is found, there remain these fantastic, unsolved mysteries that really challenge our understanding of reality.
If even a fraction of what we've discussed today points towards something beyond our world, is the greatest discovery in human history still waiting among the stars? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep looking up, and I will see you in the next one.